Brought to you by the Ramsey Network app. Download today to go further with Ramsey.
Well, I had written in because we have 2 adult children that have moved back home, and we are charging them rent. However, I do feel guilty about it at times, and then I feel like we're being taken advantage other times. So I just wanted to hear what your take would be on it.
I was about to high five you. So tell me about your sons.
So our second, we have 4 children. Our second son, he lost his job about a year and a half ago.
How old is he?
And he was 29. He's now 30.
Okay.
And he was renting a place with our youngest son, and he was behind on his rent, and we paid to have his rent caught up so our other son wouldn't get penalized for it. Then we allowed him to move in. He was without a job for 6 months. He did get a job, and once he started, we were having him pay $200 back for the loan and $200 back for rent. So that has been going on since last August. And then our younger son, he was supposed to get married, and that didn't happen, and his housing fell through. So he, at the last minute, asked if he could move in with us at the end of August. So he's been here for 2 months, and we just started charging him rent. So
okay.
They make a lot of money.
You do or they do?
They do. We're fine. My husband and I are fine, but they do make a lot of money. And at times I feel like we're being taken for granted.
You are.
Okay.
I'm working on a huge project, and one of the chapters of the project right now is tentatively titled "Millions of Unmarriable Men."
Mm-hmm.
And these are men that always go through life with a safety net that is probably mom's house.
Yeah.
And what it's robbing them of is, you're talking about a 30-year-old who makes great money. Essentially what's happening here is, and by the way, I have a 14-year-old, the thought of him moving away in 4 years, I can get choked up without even blinking twice. Okay?
Right.
So I get it. And if you throw in any sort of divorce or childhood issues, there's always this sense parents feel of, I want to catch up, I want to make this thing right. I don't want to contribute any more hurt or anything like that. But here's what's happening. Millions and millions of parents are walking into the gym and watching their kids struggling, and they run over and take the weight off the bar. And then their kids are 30 years old and they get laid off, and the kid looks around and just goes, "Mommy!" and here's the thing, it feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it feels so good.
Sometimes I get angry about it.
Okay,
it's good.
I'm glad you feel both, and both of those are normal reactions. I want my son and my daughter to always know, no matter what, they will always know where the key is to come into my house. They're always welcome home.
Right.
And I want them to be strong enough to really never have to. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And see, my husband and I, we got married young, 19 and 21, and we had 4 kids, right within 7 years. And we worked our butts off to, just live paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And so we never had a safety net, either one of us. And so we always wanted to make sure that our kids didn't feel that and that we were that. So our oldest son is married, has a 3-year-old and another on the way. He's never come back home since he's been married, but our other 3 kids have come back. All of them, 2 of them have come back twice, and then our youngest just came back.
But can I tell you why they come back?
Because they can.
Yep. Because they can. And so I do think there's a moment in time when the greatest gift you could give them is their independence. And I think there's something fair to say, hey, me and this old man over here, your husband, we got married real young. We had all 4 kids, and we want to have our adventures. Y'all are moving out. And you got 3 months, you got 6 months, you got 90 days, you got 60 days. What I've been telling parents is this: tell them they got 60 days, or let's say 30 days, maybe 60 days at the most, and say, I'll give you another 30 days if y'all watch all 9 FPU lessons back to back to back. You watch all these lessons, I'll give you another month. You can stay. to launch.
Mm.
But just as
and what's so hard about this, Heather, is what you intended as a mom to help and to be a gift and to be a blessing, when that is not done with boundaries, with clear communication, with an end date. Like the son that was going to get married ended up falling. It didn't happen, and so his housing. Who knows what that story is? And I'm like, yeah. If he's like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to move in here, and now I can't, get rent somewhere. Can I stay with you guys for a month while I find another place, right? Like, I mean, there's common sense in this, right? So it's not that you're not being, half-hearted about it, but also what that ends up being, that gift and that great heart that you have, Heather, it ends up hindering your kids, and it's the enabling side that is so difficult. I was reading a parenting book recently, and they were talking about how my generation, the boomer parents, ended up kind of becoming helicopter parents to a degree toward the end of like my high school when phones started to be a thing. And they said, hover, 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 hover. And nowadays, the style of parenting is not helicopter parents, but they're snowplow parents, where they go through and they just clear the way, where there's no bumps, no moguls. They don't have to get nervous that, oh my God, I'm about to fall. Nothing. It is a clear path. And again, if we knew that was the healthiest thing for people and they would end up on the other side being a healthier person, then that's great. But it doesn't. It doesn't help. All the research shows it's the opposite. It's exactly what you're saying about the weights. It's a great picture because they end up being weak. Like they're just not strong. There's no strength. That's right. And I don't know if this helps at all, Heather, but we had Taylor, our beautiful Taylor, in the booth. She's our phone screener. She's wonderful. And when you said, about unmarriable men, she's nodding her head because a lot of men in their 20s and 30s are back home, and great girls are like, oh, but I gotta failure to lunch. Matthew McConaughey, that's right, I gotta go home to your parents to
and here's the thing, parents, for those of us, listen, I remember pacing the house with my wife asleep, not knowing how we were gonna do it. Like those that I can get real visceral real quick. My son and my daughter, hopefully, thank God, will never experience that. That doesn't mean that they have won. That means that I'm going to have to do different things to inject challenges into their lives, meaning I could buy you a car. I'm not going to. I could pay for everything. I'm not going to. I've got to inject struggle because at the end of the day, I don't want them waking up and being 30. And because of me, they don't have strength and they don't have grit. That doesn't mean we're going to intentionally make them suffer, but that means I've got to be intentional about making sure they've got strength, that they develop different places that I developed.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
It's part of it.
Brought to you by the Ramsey Network app. Download today to go further with Ramsey.